we see things and we hear stories from people, and that influences us to want to make a change. So I always wonder, like, how much and how can you support someone with a conversation? I'm saying this because I just lost my grandmother recently. I told you, had diabetes for years, and in the last maybe years or months, but like mainly in the last few months, Mom was in that tricky situation of like, oh, I want to please this person, like I don't know how you're going to stop them from having their pleasures in life at that age, because they're used to their lifestyle, and then suddenly you say you gotta stop and look after yourself at that tricky end of life, let's say, but then by not doing that, everybody's dealing with the suffering of watching that person suffer, so I agree 100% with that thing of like, people have to make the decisions themselves. But like, when it comes to someone so close to you or someone that you really love, what would you say about like that conversation, that thing? Are there ways that we can support those people, because it involves mental health as well, right? So would you say that there are techniques that would help to get people?
I think it always comes back to awareness, right? So starting to make people aware of, and let's say it's a person, making them aware of their choices without putting them down or telling them. I think there's such a difference between you're putting things in front of them without pushing things onto them. Yeah. And I think I used to probably be someone that would go, hey, guess what? If you do this, blah, blah, blah. But just model it for a start. If you're showing them that your lifestyle or your choices or anything that you might be doing has led to the outcome of X, Y, Z, and the benefits it's had for you or the benefits it's had for other people that you know, then bring that awareness to that person. I'm sure it does get to a point with some people where you need to obviously have some hard truths, right? There would 100% be those conversations. And especially when you love people, I don't know if I could be as controlled if it was someone who I knew that, was hurting themselves. I think comes back to their support and questioning them and asking them. And I know I've had a few conversations with people before around different health, different parts of their health that have gone, do you want to, me included, do you want to live like this? In 5 years' time, is this where you want to be? Do you want to feel this pain, or do you want to, and it's making people go, hold on, I don't actually have to be like this in another 5 years. I could do something now to sort that out. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
I think it's hard because you're probably coming from a place where you are coaching someone that has potential for longevity, but when we're talking about end of life and palliative care, it's a whole nother kettle of fish, and that's something that I work in, and it's so hard because you see family members, trying really hard to keep that loved one going, but sometimes that end of life, those decisions are completely different to what the decision might be, 5-10 years earlier, and it's more around that sort of quality of life and comfort cares, and the specifics of nutrition aren't as necessary at that point. And so, but it's a really hard pill to swallow because you're watching that loved one progress, and you want to do everything you can. You've been taught, that food is medicine, and maybe we can help. But sometimes it's just part of that process, and that whole stage of life is really, really difficult for family members, particularly.
What was hard for me was to go to, because I saw my grandmother the last day that she was conscious when I went to Brazil. And one of the most challenging moments was going to the hospital and looking at her little tray of food. it was 4 p.m. that it was the time for the visit, and there was half cup of black coffee, a little plastic container with milk, 2 slices of bread, probably like just white bread or some sort of that, all in plastic bags. And then the nurse told me that it has to be, because everything has to come in packages to avoid contaminate. I don't know.
Okay.
Butter, little, I think margarine, not even butter.
I was going to say nothing wrong with butter,
No,
but margarine, yes, problem.
And then some sort of like, and there was some papaya, because in Brazil there's an abundance of papaya. But it was cooked, it was like very soft and cooked, which in my view, from what I understand, because I went through the raw diet, a lot of people, they cannot deal with too much fruits, and depending on what's happening with their guts. So there's a process for that. So I kind of understand that. But for me, just that, just that cup of black coffee, like in the middle of the afternoon, for someone who is in that condition, like it was so challenging for me, because who am I? I look after myself, and I try to make sense of things that make me feel good, but who am I to tell a doctor or someone? But I really felt like it. I was like, what are you doing to my grandmother?
But also,